Welcome to Radio Free Will. I'm your host, George McCullough. And this is the third of our podcasts, so folks, there's no turning back. It looks like we're going to go forward with this experiment, and we hope that you enjoy it. If you have any feedback, please be sure to send us your comments. Today on controls is Anna Savoia, and we're back again with Michelle Mockers, artist, activist, and philosopher. And we're going to try to continue again with where we left off in episode 2. We were just getting ready to dive into the dialectic of the arts, Michelle's philosophy for a new planet.
Yes, I put a little away the word dialectic to replace it by, philosophy, because philosophy is a word that everybody can really understand. Dialectic is a little more complicated. Plus, through the ages, it has been modified, can take one signification or another one. So I will explain to you exactly how I use it.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, before going into that, I would mention that the arts, we are talking, artists against politicians. The artists against the politicians. Because the arts is the oldest job in the world. The job, manifestation of man, of, let's say, Cro-Magnon, which is only 50,000 years ago, something like that, when he drawing on the wall of the cave, so that the first manifestation of man, which is art, and some very, very sophisticated art. Now, think of something. Your life is possible because there is art. Just imagine for 1 second a world without, color, without fashion, without cinema, without theater, without painting, without everything you want, art of cooking, art of love, whatever it is, art. Life is made of art. Without the art, life would be absolutely impossible. But so far, the arts...
Well, I don't think it would be impossible. I think it would be
terrible.
Dreary.
It would be hell on earth, my dear. Everything the same color, with no distraction, no nothing to relax. Oh, come on, that would be absolutely terrible. You could not even choose a tie to put around your shirt, which would be the same shirt as the neighbor, and the same tie as the neighbor, Fixed by the government, by the way. So let's say that once more, the art are the oldest manifestation of man and the most essential manifestation of man. So art, of course, like anything else, has some rules. And it's where I call the dialectic of the arts, the dialogue between the elements that makes that a piece of art is a piece of art.
Go on.
And it's where, you have to agree on the word, let's say the dialectic is the dialogue between two opposite, Marx and Hegel would say contradictory, but I say just opposite elements. Why I disagree with Hegel and Marx is because they proceed by negation. The synthesis by Hegel is the thesis is negated by the antithesis to become a synthesis, which in its turn will become a new thesis negated, and so on, so on, so on, so. So that has several problems. For me, it has several problems. Because if you say that it can be solved by the negations means that you disappear. For example, the classical example of Marxism is the bourgeoisie or the proletariat is exactly the contrary of the bourgeoisie. And so the bourgeoisie has to disappear to become the synthesis, which will be the classless society without any class. It's very, very nice.
Well, Michelle, you've known me for a long time. You know that I tend to lean towards socialist policies. I think that we can live without live in a world without the rich people. Certainly a better distribution of income amongst everybody.
You go back to art, my dear, because what is a painting? If not precisely a balance between the elements that compose a painting. The number one contradiction, if you consider it as a contradiction, is that a painting is first made of something which is absolutely abstract, your inspiration. And on the other side, you have the paints and you have the brushes on the table, and you put the inspiration and the brushes together, and you create a piece of art, which already demonstrate that abstraction, in that case, abstraction and really a figurative material are not contradictory but complementary. So if you start from that principle and you can apply it to society, I go to your direction. Because in fact, a painting is a balance, it's in between a frame, which would be society if you want. It's a balance between the drawing and the colors. And it's automatic. It automatically comes from the mind of the painter and the brushes that he has to work with. But that means if you apply that to society, precisely that society has to be in a frame where everything is balanced. There cannot be too much. You don't paint out of the frame to make a painting. It has to be inside society, but that society has to be balanced, not too much, not enough.
Well, if you take, to expand on your explanation, if you take modern art, some people just throw together trash on the floor and call that art.
That's something else, and I was sure that you would tell me
Right.
that. However, it remains even like that. Even if you take a Picasso who absolutely says that he is scientifically destroying the art, he doesn't destroy anything at all, because in fact he still make a synthesis between his inspiration and his realization, whatever the realization. That's something else, what you want to say. But that has nothing to do, if you want, with the painting itself. The painting itself is nevertheless a synthesis between the inspiration and what is said. What is said is something else. But you don't go out of that. So even the most modern, you don't like it, whatever it is, it nevertheless remains in the limits of what is a painting. It means, once more, that you have to remain, the society has to remain in some, not to go too much on one side or another one, not to have too many people, too rich people who govern those who have nothing, who are the most majority, the people who I call with no pennies, are the big majority. And the government of the people, by the people, for the people is a joke. Because in fact, it's the government of the people with a lot of money.
We see that every day nowadays. And it seems to be that people with money and power are really just hoarding all that power nowadays, and every day seems to be getting worse and worse.
Except that there is nothing new. I was quoting, I believe, Thomas More in the 16th century, who says exactly what you are saying. It means that through the whole history, and more today because the economy took over, economy was not really considered up to the Industrial Revolution, was not really considered as a main problem of humanity. Humanity was surviving. Then all of a sudden, I don't remember the exact date, but the flying shuttle in England, which was at that time the richest country in the world, started the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution transformed the life of people, is the beginning of capitalism, because the machine started to be expensive, and only the people with enough money that they had from, commerce or whatever you want previously, they invest in the machine, and investing in the machine, they take over all the people who are working for the machine, and they transform the life of people to work around the machine. And they exploit, of course, they exploit the people. That is what the beginning of capitalism. And it didn't stop since. And when, Well, the American society is a contradiction. It's an absolute
Oh, I know.
contradiction, because liberty is what you can exert between laws that have been fixed by the society. You can do this, you can do this, you cannot do that. There are laws very precise into which you have liberty to act. Now, in business, it's the reverse. It's free enterprise, is the liberty to absolutely kill the competition. If you can kill the competition, you take the place of, you take the customers of the competition. So it's the reverse of liberty, in fact. It's the law of the jungle, the survival of the fittest. And that is capitalism, my dear, and we live with that. So today we have a nice society in America, but which is absolutely unable to, I repeat myself, but I will repeat that anytime, which is absolutely unable to educate all the future citizens, to give them the same education to everyone, and who also has the most incredible and impossible health system. So that is, my dear, what comes out of capitalism.
Well, one thing that I always find hypocritical is whenever there's an election, they're always talking about the economy, that the government's going to create jobs by either giving money to corporations to create jobs or try to create jobs themselves. But we're in this capitalist system, and I don't see where it's the government's job to create the economy if it's a capitalist system. If everybody agrees that the government needs to get involved and help create jobs, well, then you might as well just have a socialist economy.
Yes, but my dear, men have something. And when I was talking about women, I said that women are the individual who give life, and the male are the individual who try to kill the life of other people. And that is true since centuries and centuries. Since we put borders to create some nations, if you want, and one nation is always at war with another nation for any pretext it can be. Up to today, the most money spent is in war, not in giving education to people. So as long as we will not be able to bring some, let's say, peace on earth, being nice instead of being always say, hey, if you are not pleased, I send you my missile. If we were a little a different way of talking to other people, if we could bring some peace on earth, maybe we would spend less money on armaments. When you think that the budget of America is for more than 50%, 54 or 55, I don't remember, going to the army, my dear. And during that time, once more, the most incredible health system is working because the government doesn't take over. So that is something that should absolutely not exist. Humanity is upside down, if you want. We do exactly the reverse what we should do. We are the only species.
Do you think it's just America, or do you think it's human nature?
America is an example because America pretends to be the most powerful country in the world. So the most powerful country in the world should be the country giving the example. And we give the example of saying, hey, if you don't do what we want you to do, we bang on your head. That has been the policy up to today. So if humanity is not able in the near future to change his way of thinking and try to get together and make in such a way that the nation, instead of being enemies, should be more friendly and helpful to each other, forget it. Humanity is doomed. Humanity is doomed, and we just say one thing the other day, that something else is coming. There is a repetition in humanity. You don't stop progress. And today we have the artificial intelligence and robots. And artificial intelligence and robots can replace all the workers, everybody. They don't need you. So the people with them, we will own those.
They do need us to spend money, though.
Yeah, they do need us to spend money, but yes and no. Because if they were able to put their hands on everything, then you will really become the slave, even if they give you a good life, but the slave, you will have no work, you will have nothing at all. The intelligence
Well,
artificial,
people could work on the arts.
that's something else. But to work on the arts, you also have to provide the people with the possibility, the knowledge, once more, and the material possibility to do that.
Creative thinking.
Yeah, creative thinking, but okay, you create in your mind. But then after that, what are your hands doing? Just in your mind, or you want to create with your hands what came out of your mind? So you have to be able to do it, my dear. And if artificial intelligence and robots were exactly in the same position as those we own the machine in the revolution, in the industrial revolution, it will be a new industrial revolution, but much, much more, much deeper, because they can go with artificial intelligence, they can pick up all the means to invade your mind. Radio, cinema, everything you want, and blah, 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 to absolutely brain you. You'll be brainless if they want. So that is the great, great, great danger, if you want, of the future. But nobody, hey, do you hear that? Do you hear one politician talk about that? No. And it's going on.
Oh, I know. Well, then will we need a president?
We need to change everything, my dear, in fact. We need to change the way of living of humanity. And it's where I should, I said very humbly, but the very positive philosophy of the arts can bring a different type of society.
This is a good segue, because last week when we got done the podcast, we were talking about, we don't want to be too negative. We want to give people some positive information, a positive direction in the way things could be. Now, the dialectic of the arts does create that.
Yeah, but after that there is a material problem. How do you make in such a way that the dialectic of the arts could become the philosophy of the world, not only of America, but of the whole world? It's exactly, in fact, we are at the point, few centuries now later, at the point where Marx was, when the worker was so miserable, absolutely miserable, made miserable by the owners of the machine, of the steam engine. So he came and proposed something to say, hey, we can get out of that. And he came with a philosophy. But once more, his philosophy, for me, it's absolutely unacceptable, because it's a negative philosophy. And at the end of it, a negative philosophy, you negate. Negation has nothing else to negate but itself. So it goes nowhere, and today you have in China, you have exactly the reverse of Marxism with a guy, I should be very reverent, elected for life, my dear. It's the king which was elected for life. So communism, instead of being the dictatorship of the proletariat, is in the hand of a king. So it goes back, it's where negation negates negation. So we cannot do that. And the arts are the reverse of that. It's a positive dialectic, positive. We put together the inspiration and the brushes to paint a society.
Well, before we outline that, you brought up a question in my mind. What would Marx say about artificial intelligence?
What would he say?
Yeah.
He would say exactly the same thing we are saying now, that it's unacceptable for the people, because that in the hands of the people, those people will replace the owners of the steam engine with a much, much, much more power, because it's an invisible power. They know absolutely already all what you eat, when you sleep, you're never alone. They know that you are sleeping, and they know where is your bed, where is your car, where you go. They know absolutely already everything. Add to that knowledge that they could absolutely control what you are doing and push you. Mainly, what is for me it's absolutely terrible is that it would take your brain away. By all means, every time you will watch television, you will be brainless. Absolutely. So that is absolutely unacceptable. And it's where we can propose a positive philosophy saying no way that those instruments would be in the hands of only few people. They have to be in the hands of all the people or nothing at all. Or if we are not able to do that, forget it. It's the end of humanity as we know it.
So what kind of a world, how would you like to see government? You're not saying that there shouldn't be government.
Oh, no, there has to be a government because the people, the group cannot come out with something or discuss forever. If you have 1 million people who are in the government, you have to have a government that has to be elected. No, it's not for sure that it is exactly the same type of government that we have today. Today we come out with one person who is the president with his own ideas that he tries to impose upon everybody, but that's not the ideas of the people, it's his ideas. Mm-hmm. So we must come out with I don't want to say a system, but yes, that would absolutely make in such a way that instead of being one man who say what he wants or what he wishes, it would be the wish of the people, and that is technically absolutely possible, my dear. When we spend 54% of the budget on the military, we could spend few millions to know what the people think.
So, well, everybody has the potential of being connected through the internet or whatever.
Absolutely. But what we don't have today, it's always the same thing. We are still in the Middle Ages, where it's only a small group of people who in fact govern the country. And in every country it's the same thing. I'm talking about China. It's a very, very small group of people, if not one individual, who govern the rest of it. It has nothing to do with communism, and we have nothing to do with democracy. There is no democracy when all the people cannot have the same education. How can you expect an uncultured citizen to have some real ideas about politics and about the government? That's absolutely impossible. So all the citizens or future citizens have to have absolutely the same education.
Well, let's go there. Let's talk about education. You have lots of ideas of how education should be run.
Education should be you should say dialectic
for free.
Philosophy.
I think all of us here agree that it should be for free.
Number one is for free. Everybody is entitled to the same education, to the same possibilities of realizing himself. It's not a question to put everything on the same level. That also is a dream, and it's where Marx was calling the socialists the dreamers, the dreamers, because it's impossible to put it, it's not natural, and it would be against nature, when I say it's not natural, to put everybody at the same level. No, you have to have the same education with the same possibility of realizing what you can realize, of capabilities, if you want.
And so what would that education look like? I know that you've developed ideas for how education would look like. I think we all agree that it should be free, or at least some level of education. If somebody wants to pay money to wear a fancy tie and...
Nope, no money.
No money at all, no matter what.
No matter what. You can go as low or as high as you want, but you have the possibility to do it.
So you would eliminate private
Absolutely.
schools?
Oh, no money. That everybody with the same money if you want. Now, that you stay at a lower level or you go to the highest, that has nothing to do with the problem. Once more, it is not an equality of people. It's an equality of possibilities, if you want, of realization.
But the curriculum in the education that you propose, you spoke about having sports and nature and the arts all part of that curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's what is a developed man or woman. I mean, when I say man, we should be today humans. Sorry for that. But education should be three parts. The classic, if I can say so,
Okay.
literature, whatever you want, the classic.
Arithmetic.
A third of it would be that, the classic. A third of it would be the arts, to be exposed or to do arts, but to be exposed. Every kid for me should be exposed at least once or twice to a symphonic orchestra, for example, which kids absolutely ignore. They ignore theater, should be exposed to theater. And if they want to be in, that's something else, of course. And so that would be a second third, if you want, and the third would be the sports. But not sports, just American football. I'm talking about horse riding, sailing, or gliding, things like that. I mean, which really develop the personality.
And nature was a part of the curriculum too, right?
Absolutely, my dear. That's part of it at every level, the intellectual level and the material level. And you should be exposed to visit, productive gardens or whatever you do. You have to make a complete individual. When that individual has all those possibilities, he can use them up to the most extent or stop in a way if he's not able to go too high, but to have that possibility to do it and to be, in any case, have been exposed to all the arts, all the sports, and all the classics. That is indispensable for me to have a democracy. Without that, there is no democracy.
Yeah, and I would like to add that I could see media studies being involved with that kind of education system. People should be critical of the media that gets poured upon them every single second of the day. They need to determine who's lying to them, who's not. How do you critically judge what kind of media is coming at you, right?
Yeah, and it's with the modern ways, computers and all that. It's very, very possible. For example, when say the government of the people, to consult the people. For example, 2 or 3 times a year to have some kind of a referendum, to let the people know if they are pleased, if they are not pleased, if they suggest whatever, to make an analysis of their government and to say what is good or what is no good. And that is technically today it's absolutely possible.
And I would like to add critical thinking needs to be taught to every single person. Leadership development, because everybody should become their own leader. Right?
Absolutely.
Because how are you going to judge what another leader does? You don't want people to be dictated to.
Since the very beginning of understanding, there can be some kind of a philosophy for children to learn, to teach them how to think, not to tell them what to think, but to teach them how to think. Like that, they can go in life all their life after that and be able to analyze, to see and be really conscious citizens.
And people should be taught nutrition and culinary skills, right? You want everybody to cook like a Frenchman, right?
Yeah, that's the number 2 part, to be exposed to the arts, because the arts of cooking, it's an art to cook. You are not obliged to become a great chef, but at least to learn the basics, to learn what is good, how to make something good with sometimes almost nothing. You have to learn all that, but that is an art. Cooking is an art. So all the kids should be exposed to cooking. So some will like it, some will not like it. Hey, that's a choice. And then they can go to something they like more and then proceed. They want to be on stage. Hey, teach them how to act.
Yeah.
That's it. Come on, that's it.
I think people should be taught how to sit still and be quiet with their thoughts. You know, teach them to get away from their phone and the computer and movies and stuff. Just they have to be able to sit still.
You know, and when you practice the arts or you practice the sports, if you are on a sailing boat, you should not be with your telephone. All the kids today, I was seeing the other day, 2 kids, they were maybe 5 or 6 years old, they had the telephone. So instead of talking to each other, they were talking to their telephone. Everywhere you go, people are talking to their telephone. They are not talking to each other, they are talking to their telephone. So all the arts, for me, all the education, if you want, is out of the telephone.
And this would be a lifelong thing, right? People get into their 80s, their 90s, would
Absolutely,
still be able
it's
to...
still open. You have to have, as a kid, if you want to follow, you have to follow the rules of education. Then after that, if you are an adult, you should have the possibility to go to whatever you prefer, you want to learn, you should be able to do it. And for free, my dear, absolutely for free.
And do you believe in a leaderless government?
Yeah, the government...
See, I'm going to try to trick this guy here.
The government of the people should not be the government of one man. It can be the government of an elected group, for example. A government that will be done from the most representative of the activities of a country, but elected for a period of time, and that's it, and re-elected after that. I mean, new people, not one person with his own ideas coming to direct millions of people.
Well, isn't that what America has now? It has representative government.
No. Come on. We are the government of the rich people. You know that.
Yeah. And you were talking to Anna just before we started recording. It shouldn't be just men, right? Government should be required to be 50% female.
50% female, because, you know, I always say the female are those who give birth, and the men are those who try to destroy the life of other people. And the female are more important, if you want, for humanity than the men. Because the men, they kill each other. Blah, blah, blah. So there is no reason for centuries, because the males have some biceps which are supposedly, you know, stronger than the biceps of a woman. They are stronger, let's say, physically, usually stronger than men. So they took over. For centuries they took over. Now we are, if we want the humanity to survive, it's my deep feeling that if we want to survive, if we want to organize, let's say, the government of the people, by the people, for the people, for that nice sentence, you have to have at least as many women as men to direct the country.
Or more.
Or more. But I mean, at least should be half. At least should be half, because they consider the problem many times under a completely different view of men. And so far, let's put it that way, it's men. The government has always been a problem of men, not of women. So it has to be a problem of women as much as men.
Yeah, I really believe that we're right on the precipice of the age of Aquarius. And in that age, the warrior god will go away, and Mother Nature, or the female gods, will take their place. And because the planet it's in trouble, and it needs a nurturing god, not a warrior god, like you say, that wants to destroy.
Oh yeah, no, that has been for centuries, but it's over, my dear. We are going to be 10 billion people in very few years. I will not be there, but you'll be there. Eventually, you'll still be there. You'll see 10 billion people. What will you do with 10 billion people? We are not already feeding everybody. We are only 7 billion.
Well, we can feed everybody. The food is there.
Yeah, the food is there, and also at the condition
It's
that
the
it,
free market system that
yeah,
keeps the
exactly,
food from the people.
exactly. So it has to be, that is something, the food and the reserves should be something scientifically studied and distributed. Otherwise, it's what it is today. Some have everything and some have nothing. And that is unacceptable for the human condition. Even animals were worse than animals. You never saw animals killing themselves, killing full species of other animals just to go to war. You never saw that. Animals are more civilized in some ways than
Well,
we
they
are.
will. Animals will fight each other. The deer, the two male deers will.
Oh, for a female, yeah, they fight for a female. Huh? But men also can
I
fight
know
for...
Anna's worth fighting for. So.
No, that's what I mean. You know very well that there will be some singular fights between animals, and some animals kills to eat. We kill the cows to eat the steak at lunchtime. We do exactly the same thing. But what we do and what animals don't do is that we go by millions of people against other millions of people to make them disappear if we can. Animals don't do that. We are worse than animals, my dear.
Animals don't fight over oil.
No, we are worse than animals, and we are not able to change that. Forget it. With 10 billion people, and why not 12 billion people, life would be absolutely impossible.
I don't particularly believe that. I think the Earth can handle 10 million, 12 billion people. I think it can do that fine.
Yes, but at the condition that it's organized.
That it's organized and everybody's treated fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if the extra 5 billion people are going to live in poverty, it's not right. However, I do know if you want people to stop having lots of kids, the better off they are, the less kids they have. So if people are concerned about overpopulation and stuff like that, then we need to make everybody well off.
You know the saying that love is the coffee of the poor. Love is the coffee of the poor. So give the poor a little more coffee, and there will be less children.
Yeah,
That's it.
I agree.
That's it. Teach them how to make love without making too many children. But at the same time, it means also something else. It means that those who have too much will be obliged to leave a little to those who have less. I mean, it's where society has to be more balanced if we want to succeed in what you are saying. We have to arrange in such a way that not some are not too rich when some are too poor. That's not right.
Do you think there's a psychological issue with people that hoard money?
With people who?
People with lots of money, the 1%. Do you think there's something psychologically wrong with them, that they feel the need to keep collecting more and more money?
Yes. Money calls for money. But even Mr. Any example, Carnegie, for example. Carnegie became, from nothing, he became one of the richest men in America. Mm-hmm. And then he was so rich, then after that you have all those libraries, all the, social thing, Carnegie give his money. Yeah, it's very nice when you read that. But usually you forget to say that why was he so rich? Because he was unfair with the pay of his employees. He was paying less.
And he had monopolies too.
Yeah, so he make a lot of money on the back of his employees. That's always the same story, my dear. To make money, and it's where the free enterprise is an enterprise of killers. You kill everybody. You kill the competition, and you kill your own workers, paying them less than they should be paid. And so now after that, you can give your money to the libraries and whatever you want. But you have mistreated for your whole life, you have mistreated your employees.
Yeah.
This is the general story. It's everywhere the story. More money, more money, more money, and more money. Always. Those who have money want more money. You have houses, even in the United States, you have houses, crazy houses for $40 million.
Oh, even
$40 million to do what? $40 million for two people who build that house? $40 million?
Even
Oh, come on, that's completely stupid.
even today, middle class people are told that, or taught that they need to buy these McMansions and stuff. I just don't know why they're interested in having it. You got to clean the thing. You got to heat the thing. Seems to me like a big hassle. I don't know.
My dear, there is something that will be eventually painful for some people, because when we say we should not have too rich people, so do you that not to have too rich people? And what do you do with the people who are already too rich? So that is another problem.
Well, the fairest way to do it without violence is to just tax people. Tax them like the United States used to be in the 50s, early 60s. Millionaires were taxed at 90% of their income. Now, granted, there were probably loopholes back then, but 90%. And they didn't seem to have a problem living back then.
Yeah, you know, I just said that you should, above a certain level, all your money should go back to the Commonwealth. Period. No calculation. You fix the maximum, and above that maximum, all goes back to the Commonwealth.
And
Now you have one way. You have one way. The General de Gaulle, you know I'm French. The General de Gaulle at the end of the war made something. During the war, you had those people who were, say, what they call the black market, and made a lot of money selling things that you could not find, and selling them for a lot of money. So at the end of the war, there were people with a lot of money. De Gaulle made one thing. One day, you had to go to the bank or whatever it was to change your money to a certain extent.
explain.
Explain that, for example, you had made 10 millions, you were entitled to only 1 million. That was the maximum that you could possess.
That's
so you had
pretty smart.
He did it. So you had new banknotes, absolutely new banknotes, and you were obliged to come. I saw some people coming with buckets of money over. That was that much, and period, and new money.
And so how did people react to that?
Everybody was pleased with that. Come on. Because the people who had too much money, they had too much money because they had made that money on the back of the people who were starving. They were selling them a little chicken, a little this or that for a fantastic price. And they make all that money like that, my dear. That was during the war. So at the end of the war, the General de Gaulle said, all those who make that money, forget it. If you had 10 millions, the maximum, for example, will be 1 million. So the other 9 million, you can put them in the garbage.
And is that what people did? They just
exactly.
burned their money?
Exactly. I don't know what they did with it, but that was it.
Wow. I never heard of that before.
I was very poor, but I went myself for change my few bills against new bills.
Yeah, but I guess somebody could, if you had 10 million and you could only collect $1 million, you could give Anna $1 million and give me $1 million and everybody get together and then...
She has to prove that she has made 1 million. What was your job, and how were you making in your job, and blah, blah, and blah, blah, and blah, blah. And what did you declare in your taxes? Come on. Come on. You can very well know what if people are really rich or not rich. Come on.
They have to prove also that they earned fairly.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the rich. If they earn it exploiting the poor, they don't deserve that money in the first place because they're stealing pretty much. So giving back the money, it's not like giving to charity. It's just they never earned it. They stole it. They just give it back to the people.
Did other countries have a policy like that after World War II in Europe?
I don't know. That I don't know. I cannot answer you. I don't know. You know the other country? Who was the other country?
Well, there was Italy.
Italy was broke. Why the Plan Marshall?
to make sure people don't go into communism.
Exactly.
Is
No,
to
nothing
save
else.
the
Nothing
free
else.
market system.
Nothing else. But it allows people to start again. That was the positive side, if you want, of the story, was that people started to live again, to rebuild the I saw some towns, Saint-Nazaire, you know, where the big submarine base is. When I went the first time I was able to visit Saint-Nazaire, it was exactly like your floor. Except one house, I don't know for which reason, one house, a skeleton of a house was standing. The rest was absolutely flat, my dear. Brest, which was also a seaport, flat like your flat, absolutely flat. So, of course, France was voting before the war, 25% communist, 25% communist voting. Eh? So the Marshall Plan was to save Europe from communism, basically. And it was very useful in that respect. It was a success for that, I must say.
Yeah, up until about now.
Oh, that's something else now. That's something else. But at that time, it really helped, if you want. It really helped because everything was a little like that, and not for sure. And you had Germany was, of course, flat. A lot of countries were totally flat, and they had to start again.
Except for the corporations, they weren't
Except for
flat.
all the corporations. Come on,
Only the people's houses.
you know very well the story of World War I and World War II of some factories that had never been bombed on the enemy territory because they were belonging to some corporation, that's very well known.
It's still that way.
Of course it is.
You could probably go in. Well, look when they invaded Iraq. The first thing the Americans did was to go to the Ministry of Oil
Absolutely.
and make sure that was okay.
Come on, absolutely. You know, it's always you say, for example, oh yes, but we have to defend ourselves. Hitler did that. Why Hitler? That's the only question that never come to the mind of people. Why Hitler? Why at the end of World War I, which was supposed to be the last of the wars, but they created the condition. So Germany was the loser, and Germany was flat. But they created the condition that an Hitler was possible because they make it in such a way that Germany was absolutely unable to survive. You know, what they call the reparations, the money that they had to pay, they were absolutely flat, out of work, out of everything. So the first guy with a little voice will say, hey, I'm going to give you jobs. Hey, he was elected. We created, when you look at history, through the whole history, the winner always creates the condition for the next war because the one who loses wants to take revenge. All the time.
So, do you see similar things happening today?
The mind of man did not change, my dear. Did not change at all so far. We are still spending 54 or 55 or 57, I don't know what, of our money in armaments to defend ourselves.
Well, America is. The rest of the world is.
No, the others are too poor to spend so much money. But everybody, look at the French. They have a lot of planes. They have a lot of things like that. Come on, every country has a full army and armaments and the latest in planes and the
Nuclear
latest in
bombs.
missiles and the latest in everything. Come on. Even that poor North Korea, where they are starving, but they have the missiles. Because the missiles are more important than the bread. So it's why humanity is going down the drain, with thinking like that, thinking that we always must be we are always at war against something. One of the things that is sublime is war on terror. There is nothing less grammatical, if you want, or intellectual than war on terror. Because what is war? Is to fight with guns, with real guns, send bullets. And what is terror? Terror is a state of mind. So you cannot go with guns against a state of mind. If you go by the words with the dictionary, that's what it means. You fire against a state of word. That's impossible. You don't fire against something that is abstract. You don't fire against that, or you are no. I agree with
Well,
Marx.
then how do you fight it?
You would say war against I don't know, terrorism would be logical if you want. But war against terrorism, then you can say, war is the terrorism of a rich country and terrorism is the war of a poor country. So you cannot use war against terrorism, but that would be the exact grammatical thing to say, not war on terror. Terror is a state of mind. It's not a reality.
So when you were in the French Resistance,
Yes.
did you consider yourself a terrorist or freedom fighter? Or?
No, not at all terrorism, my dear. No, not at all. We were fighting to liberate France, to help the Allied as much, to help them as much as we could, with, blowing all the time the railroads and all that. We really did. Where I was located, where all the Germans from the Spanish borders to the whole Atlantic coast, up to Nantes, with the submarine bases, La Rochelle and all that, they all were passing by the roads where we were. There was no other way to go.
The Germans.
Yeah, they had no other way to go to Vierzon. Vierzon was the last railroad station that could go directly to Germany. So they were trying to save as much material and men as possible. But they were all passing by where we were all my men, there were 1,800 men on their way, just like that. So there was a lot of fights, and I say we. I never did, I was not allowed to do it, but we did kill a lot of Germans, take a lot of trucks. We didn't know what to do with the trucks, to put them to make them disappear, to put them in the woods. We have too many trucks, too many cars, too many everything. I had 2 full tankers, I told you, of gasoline for planes. 2 full big tankers that we took to the German. There was a specialist on that.
You think any of those cars are still in the woods?
Oh yes, certainly. Certainly you go. No. Certainly you go to. In the south of France, where my uncle Peter was directing that, it's in the mountain. It's a mountain road. It's still full of material, military material.
All right, so I want to make a challenge. If anybody's listening to this podcast and they're in the south of France,
Yeah,
in a
Lassenbaum.
town,
They go to Lassenbaum.
Lassenbaum. Take pictures and send them to the podcast.
It was still like that. I have not been over there since a long period of time, but it was still like that at least 20 years ago. It was still like that. You had plenty of military material, trucks, whatever you want.
But not guns and stuff, right?
No. It was just vehicles, tanks, and things like that.
No bombs or anything.
No.
Unexploded bombs.
That had been. No. The bombs or all that, you had the specialists who had, spent years to find them. But hey, I spent several vacation in Normandy. It was, let's say, around 74, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Next to a big forest of the Hêtre, which is the highest tree in France. They were still discovering German bombs. It was in 1970, 74, 75. They were still finding German bombs, unexploded German bombs.
Yeah, I think they come across them in England.
No,
sometimes too.
because they were having in the woods they were digging big holes, and put the ammunition in those holes like the planes could not see them, So, but there were still ammunitions in the forest in 1974. That I saw that.
Boy, that could be very dangerous.
It was dangerous.
You drive a bulldozer over top of
And,
it.
and we tell the kids not to go and play over there.
Wow, that's amazing that you could still find. That would be a nice treasure hunt to go looking for an old.
Yeah, because they had some ammunition, depot of ammunition underground, and they were just digging
Well,
holes.
I'm not talking about people going searching for bombs, but the cars, old German Jeeps and tanks and stuff like that. That would be pretty fun to come
Yeah,
across.
but all what exists still is in such a state that you can do nothing with it.
Yeah.
It's all. It's absolutely
Couldn't
completely,
restore it.
No, cannot be restored. They're in such a way that they were thrown away. In fact.
Any planes in the woods?
No planes in the woods. Cars, but no planes.
Okay.
And the planes were something else.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left in this podcast.
So we cannot start another subject. So maybe we will have a next time, and we can.
Well, hopefully, like I said, this is episode number 3, and it looks like, folks, people seem to like it, and we're going to continue on doing the podcasts.
It will be
Right.
with pleasure. It will.
You will come back again?
Absolutely, come back again, my dear, because I am a defender of the arts, and the arts for me are the most essential part of humanity, and the arts can. It has never been expressed. Let's say the philosophy. I don't want to use the word dialectic because the dialectic would be the right word between the inspiration and the tube of paint. The dialogue between the two. So but many people don't understand the word dialectic. So I said the philosophy of art. It would be the very, very first time that the philosophy of art is proposed as a philosophy for a society. It has never been done since the beginning of humanity. Art existed since the beginning of, let's say, the modern man, Cro-Magnon. I'm not talking about the Egyptian, the Greek, and all that, but it is the very, very first time that a philosophy of the art is proposed as a philosophy for a society.
So we'll pick up on that idea in our next episode. I want to just mention that if anybody has any questions for Michelle, you'd be happy to entertain any
Absolutely,
questions.
yes, absolutely.
So people
And have any question, I will try to answer them.
write, put them in the comments, and we'll propose them to Michelle as long as they're appropriate. So, in saying that, this has been Radio Free Will. I've been your host, George McCullough. Michelle Mockers has been with us, and Anna Savoya on the controls. We are broadcasting here from Griggstown, New Jersey, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.